I want to take a minute just to say thank you to everybody for this wonderful summit so far. It's been very enlightening with all the expert comments and information sharing and collaboration across so many different sectors. It's been wonderful. And this panel will be equally wonderful. I've had a chance to visit with these colleagues before the panel started, and it's going to be a very interesting one as well. I would like to just set the stage a little bit by mentioning that it's been more than 3 decades since noted German social science research scholar Ulrich Beck made a seemingly audacious claim that we live in a global risk society. That is, a community wherein we must learn to live and work collaboratively as a cosmopolitan society of world citizens. And certainly this summit is speaking to that. Today, we find ourselves rooted squarely in that world he foresaw as inevitable. The technological advancements we've witnessed over the course of the years since Beck made that proclamation, beginning with user-friendly computer hardware and software in the 1980s, the emergence of global accessibility to information via the internet in the 90s, the explosion of social media and 24/7 access to information and people via Wi-Fi and smartphones in the 21st century, and now, of course, artificial intelligence, have changed the ways in which we communicate and collaborate in our personal and professional lives, as well as both locally and globally. Each of these new technological tools has come with both opportunities and challenges, as we've heard throughout the summit so far. At this Stratcom summit, cleverly titled Trends, Traps, and Transitions, our goal is to envision how we might both overcome these inherent challenges embedded within and capitalize on potential opportunities provided by artificial intelligence as a means for improving communication, collaboration, and decision-making in the global risk society we find ourselves living in today. For example, as was discussed in the previous discussion, first, social media is often discussed as it has been and continues to be a powerful channel for spreading mis- and disinformation. One question I want to pose to this group of experts on stage and in the audience is how can our international collaborations across public and private sectors harness generative AI to expose and thwart mis- and disinformation? And second, what and how might we create and implement global regulations for managing the ethical standards for social media and AI? The title of this particular panel is AI in International Strategic Communication, Collaboration, and Regulation. I'm Dr. Deanna Selno, Professor of Strategic Communication and Chair of the Department of Communication at Clemson University in the USA, and I will serve as the moderator for this panel as we grapple with these issues surrounding international collaboration and regulation. I'm joined by this wonderful panel of 5 experts. Professor Gyong Jung, Professor of Political Science at the Hankook University of Foreign Studies in South Korea. Professor Karen Freeberg, Professor of Strategic Communication at the University of Louisville in the USA. Mr. Oliver McTiernan, Director and co-founder of Forward Thinking, an organization focusing on conflict resolution through inclusive dialogue, located in the United Kingdom. Mr. Klaus Jurgens, Director of Economy First Limited London, an international media representation company located in the UK. And Mr. Zafer, I'm not going to say your last name, founder and chairman of the Artificial Intelligent Policies Association, AIPA, one of the first non-governmental organizations established in the field of artificial intelligence located here in Turkey. We have a series of 5 questions that each of the panelists will bring some insight to in this panel. First, Professor Jung will address the question, how can international solidarity prepare us for AI-driven communication? Professor Jung?
Thank you, Honorable Moderator. I'm Kyung Jung from Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. I prepared some presentation for the panel, but when it comes to the first step of the presentation was discussed in the previous panel, so I skipped the first part of the presentation, and I'll focus on the pursuing solidarity for the fair rule of the game. So I'm from Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, and I'm the vice head of HK Plus National Strategies Research Project Agency. And so, this is the table of contents, but as I told you, I will skip the first half of the contents. And actually, I've joined the international conference at least 15 times this year, but among them, as I mentioned here, January Japan, April Singapore, June Kazakhstan, and July Azerbaijan, and August Japan, and October Korea. And now here in Istanbul, I'm talking about AI. So it means that we are really concerned about the artificial intelligence and its possible role and AI facilitated collaboration on a global scale. And we are talking about AI and strategic communication. And these are all possible expectations. We experienced something similar when cyberspace came to us. But the cyberspace was a little bit contrary to our expectation. So we have to talk about challenges and risks, but challenges and risks about AI has been discussed in the previous panel. So I begin with the importance of regulation here. So to mitigating risks, international collaboration on regulation is crucial, and establishing globally recognized standard and guidance ensures that AI is deployed ethically across all contexts. And this time, the game changer, the advent of superintelligence and possible threats should be mentioned. A few days ago, Professor Geoffrey Everest Hinton at the University of Toronto and a recent Nobel Prize winner in physics, he's a kind of, real expert in AI, but he mentioned that it was once believed that the development of superintelligence beyond the human capabilities would be a long way off. However, given the current rate of progress, we are likely only 5 to 20 years away. So if the superintelligence comes to us, so we need to be concerned about how to maintain control over AI. The superintelligence can be a game changer in the artificial intelligence, so we have to prepare the possible side effects that we did not expect. And also, Denis Hassabis, the CEO of Google DeepMind, also mentioned that he emphasized that we need the regulation, saying while it's essential to how regulate in place, it's even more important that we get the right regulation. So we have to talk about the right regulation about the artificial intelligence and also superintelligence. So we already discussed about the data acquisition bias, and so once I believed that we needed to develop the sovereign AI, but the problem is that protecting national interest can be a hindrance to the international cooperation. A purely nationalistic approach risks fragmenting the field and hindering the development of effective global regulations necessary to address shared challenges like AI bias and misinformation campaigns. So a collaboration framework that respects national interest while promoting mutual benefits is crucial. These challenges can be overcome through solidarity and cooperation among nations. So while national AI development strategies are crucial for maintaining technological sovereignty and addressing specific national needs like language barriers, and true progress requires a parallel focus on international collaboration to establish the common ethical guidance and solid standards. This collaborative approach will ensure that the benefits of AI are shared globally while mitigating risks discussed with nationalistic competition. So we developed LML, so large language models, and we cannot deny that there exist ethnic biases, so that the choice can be two. So develop our own sovereign AI or share our techniques with others. So some companies of Korea are adopting an open source strategy, releasing their techniques for free to attract more users and faster the ecosystem. So this is about the rule of the game, frankly speaking. So just to think about the Google and the MP3 techniques and the case of Sony Betamax system. Maybe some of you remember Sony Betamax, but well, most of you do not remember the Sony Betamax because owing to the standard competition, Sony Betamax lost their status in the market. So we have to talk about the rule of the game in this AI thing, while no country desires to find itself in a subordinate role in the impending future. So we cannot deny that Western nations have exerted a strong influence over the world for centuries, including the era of imperialism. Sorry for my American colleagues here. But, a comparable shift in power dynamics is looming as we move into an AI-driven era. So the organization that gains a substantial advantage in AI will emerge as the leading authority on the global stage. So that's why I ask for the need for solidarity. Mr. President Erdogan highlighted that the world is bigger than five, and he declared the century of Turkey. I totally agree with his intention, but if Turkey genuinely seeks this change, well, can it achieve it alone? I don't think so. This question underscores the importance of our solidarity. By uniting and demonstrating the strength of our collective voice against the unilateral claims of powerful nations, we can ensure our place in this evolving world while maintaining our identity as an independent and sovereign nation. Well, so that's why I shout out for solidarity, and the problem is that how can we overcome my country first mentality? Maybe some of you watched the famous Korean drama, Squid Game, and Gambo is the expression that appeared in the Squid Game. It describes a relationship where the distinction between yours and mine disappears. Instead, there is a spirit of sharing. But however, this type of relationship only works when the parties involved have similarities. In other words, shared interests take precedence over loyalty. So this is reflective of today's international relations. To move forward, we should create a framework that fosters mutually beneficial partnership rather than prioritize loyalty and causes above all else. This way, no one feels as though they are missing out. So as a conclusion, well, AI is revolutionizing international strategic communication by enhancing collaboration and necessitating regulations. By working together on a global scale, we can embrace the benefits while effectively managing the escalated risks. Let us commit to using AI as a means to create a transparent, inclusive, and impactful communication strategies that cross border and build bridges between people. So many countries have previously been left behind and are still recovering from the trauma. Do we want to choose and create such a world again with an AI skill gaps? I don't. That's why I advocate for solidarity and international cooperation. So as a conclusion, I would like to point out just the 4 things. Number 1, we have to prioritize ethical consideration in AI design and deployment. Number 2, we should focus on transparency and accountability in AI algorithms. And number 3, we should invest in international collaboration to share best protections and address common challenges. And number 4, we should ensure equitable access to AI technology and benefits for all nations. And by doing this, I'm sure that we can increase our collaboration to fight against the possible unexpected side effects that can be created by superintelligence and artificial intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Jung. So now we got a very good case for the need for international solidarity and cooperation in creating the regulations that will guide us with AI. Let's dig a little deeper by moving to Professor Karen Freeberg from the University of Louisville to talk about more specifically what are some of the challenges of implementing global AI communication policies.
Thank you, Dr. Selno. Thank you, everyone, for coming to our panel, and it's a pleasure to be back here at Stratcom Summit. So, as we've heard out throughout the day with the various speakers and panelists and experts, there's a lot of challenges at the forefront. And what is exciting and I think hopeful, in my opinion, is having a conference like this where you're not only coming in from a global perspective with multiple countries represented, but different industries. So while I think it's important to recognize the challenges from a global perspective related to AI, I also see that there's hope and coming together. But there are a lot of challenges, obviously. I think the big one that we have is the growing emphasis on needing an ethical framework. But working in social media, that's my background in public relations and a professor at the University of Louisville, that is also a forefront. Whenever you're dealing with a tool, as AI is, you have to have a specific framework of what needs to be done, how to effectively organize the policies and procedures, but also educate all parties involved. And one term that we see being discussed in social media is the attention economy. And I think that AI, from a global standpoint, has captured the world's attention. But I also want to propose that in order to not only address the challenges, we need to know what intentions people have with it. And I believe in the previous panel we talked about the human, all tech is human, and I think that's very important. If we understand human beings and their intention to use AI, maybe we can be preventive in the various challenges, whether it is deep fakes, privacy concerns, and I think also the disparity between what type of access we see in AI. That is going to be a question. I think there's going to be an arms race to see how, what versions of the various AI tools are available to various countries. And I think that will create a larger gap. But I think if we also understand the intentions people have, so instead of an attention economy where we're looking at an intention economy. If we understand how and why people are, or governments or organizations, private sector, individuals, how they're using AI for good, for bad, maybe we can combat those different challenges. And I think there's a lot of concerns that have been raised in this panel and today, and I would imagine tomorrow about AI. But I think in order to avoid the traps, we need to look at the trends, but also look at the human behavior. The one challenge that I also think that I would like to raise too is we've been talking about government policies, education, training, and other professionals, but where does the AI play a part? Do they have a voice in this? What if they say, I don't like your policies? Or, how do we combat those different evolutions and advances? And I think that's also a player in any kind of challenge that we have to acknowledge, but also be proactive in addressing the challenges. What happens if these, tools become even more sophisticated under our watch, and how do we best prepare for those? And so I think collaboration has been a highly pointed discussion today, and I would imagine tomorrow. I think education and training is absolutely essential, but I also think understanding at the end of the day, we're all human beings who have created AI, and we need to understand that by looking at the intentions that people have, maybe we can overcome and prevent some of these challenges to evolve into becoming even bigger than initially anticipated. So, thank you.
Thank you. Interestingly, we're going to keep digging deeper. We know that we need to have international solidarity and cooperation as we create the regulations that will guide us. We know that we have to have an ethical foundation for those that is actually considering and it's based on knowing what various players' intentions are, and that perhaps some of those players that will end up having a seat at the table are the AI themselves, right? Do they have a place at the table as we figure out these decisions and cooperative guidelines that will guide us? We're going to move next to realizing that sometimes what we can learn from is the history, right? If a history that's not revisited and looked at and how it might inform the present and the future, then they say that we're destined to make the same mistakes again and again. So we can turn now to Mr. Oliver McKiernan to actually dive into the question of what lessons can we learn from the past to counterbalance the negative potential impacts or implications of AI.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to make a confession that in the past few months, I have developed a very close partnership with Claude. And Claude is my AI that provides, I think, an enormous impact on all aspects of my life. So I come to this discussion with a very positive personal view of AI. That doesn't mean that I don't recognize all the concerns that have been shared so far today and on our panel. I think it's true to say that at present, those who are taking a lead in AI are unaccountable. And there is some need for accountability and responsibility. Now, before we, I would say, rush into regulation, it is always worth taking a backward look and saying, what lessons can we take from history? And I would like to just jump back to 1440 and Johannes Gutenberg, who was the founder of the mechanical movable printing press. Now, immediately, two big authorities, the European states and the Catholic Church, saw this as a massive threat to their authority. And they were right in doing so, because if we look at what has happened in history as a consequence of this intervention, this discovery or innovation, rather, of Gutenberg, it has fundamentally transformed European society. Now, the immediate response of state and church was, first of all, to try and take back control, to introduce censorship. So we find that you could not print unless you had a license to do so. You could not then distribute unless you had permission to do so. And when the controls were not working, punishments came in. And the punishments for unauthorized publications. Now, all of that was aimed to, as I say, take back control, prevent the consequences of this innovation, didn't work, as we know well. So I think it's good to keep that in mind when we look at what form of regulation we should be discussing and what form of cooperation at a global level that is needed. And I would say, first and foremost, it should be informed by a real, genuine desire to protect human rights, including that is the right to knowledge, the access to knowledge, the right to know, transparency, all of those values. We could describe them also as democratic values. So I think those are essential in any form of regulation, that we are doing so for the right reason, not to try and take back control, but rather to guarantee, to protect the rights of the individual. Now, I would thought, along with the regulation, we should be putting a lot of research and resources into trying to develop equally capable mechanisms, technology, to fact-check and identify sources of information. Because I think this will be, more than regulation, the best protection against disinformation. The presumption I'm making is that as human beings, we have an ability to judge, but we are only capable of making the right judgments if we have access to the right information. So just to sum up, yes, regulation is important, but for the right reasons and governed by the right or the desire to protect the right values. But equally important, I think, is complementary innovations that actually can compete with the best leader in AI, but ensures that it provides, as I say, a fact check and identifies the source of the information AI is providing. Thank you.
Did you say your AI friend's name is Klaus? Interestingly, our next speaker is going to try to help us address a couple of things that you brought attention to. Rather than taking back control, we think a lot of times about regulation as a way to control when we feel like things are out of control. We need to think about how we're protecting human rights. And then we need to think about how we can create AI, create technologies that actually can do the fact-checking and can do to find the disinformation and misinformation, as well as the corrupt sources that might be spreading that information. What a positive thought about how we could use AI to counter that thing that we're so struggling with today. So we're going to move on then to Mr. Klaus Jürgens, who's going to actually attempt to address the question, what regulatory standards are needed for cross-border AI communication? Klaus?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I think I need some help. This screen is switching itself off in a minute. But not here. Okay. I can improvise. I can see it over there. Yes, hello. First of all, a real thank you to the Directorate of Communications of the Presidency of the Republic of Turkey. I remember last year I said, congratulations, you are running a successful large-scale event. This year, I have to say, you are running a very, very successful, large-scale public event. It is amazing. Really, congratulations. Not because I'm here, because you guys are here. Now, I've changed a little bit my layout. I will be very, very brief. Okay. I thought about, we talk about regulation, but do we know how to go about it and how to actually do a good regulation? Now, I was a little bit involved in this topic of regulatory impact analysis early in the new millennium and actually penned a longer research paper introducing regulatory impact analysis into the Turkish legal framework, which at that time did not yet exist. Now, I will try to bridge the gap between regulatory impact analysis, environmental and general impact assessment, and a link to AI, and then I'm probably be removed from the panel here. Now, these are the contents, and I have now changed and modified. The international dimension was already perfectly spoken about, so I'm not going into that at all. I have a few examples. I know it is almost the final panel, and you are still here, which is amazing. Now, I want to show you a 1-minute clip to wake you all up and to motivate you a little bit. I'm playing devil's advocate. Do we need to regulate AI up to a certain extent? I say yes. And I'm going to ask the question, why and how and what could be the benefits? Now, first of all, a few positive examples of AI. We spoke a lot about AI, and I think I want to show you that it can actually be very beneficial if it is used correctly in the interest of all of us. And I will come, if I still have time, to the tricky question of job losses in a minute. First of all, a 1-minute clip. I will explain in a minute why it is in the original language, plus with English subtitles. I could have chosen 15 different subtitles at the click of an AI-sponsored button. Again, I will come to the topic of job losses in a minute. Just bear with me. until you see a nice little yellow friend. I hope I managed this.
Künstliche Intelligenz ist erschreckend mit ihrem Potenzial an Umgestaltung der Realität, wie sie wir bis jetzt kannten.
Da hilft natürlich künstliche Intelligenz in sehr vielen Simulationen.
Us humans, we have evolved through thousands of years, right? And this rapid space of evolvement now is a matter of months.
It's like giving one of the early astronomers a telescope.
Modern robots nowadays learn a lot with artificial intelligence.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, this is a program I had the real pleasure to cooperate on and with for French-based Euronews. As we discussed already here, AI is around for quite some time, but everybody wants to talk about it, wants to learn more about it. So Euronews actually went to Estonia and to Austria to find out two smaller EU countries and what is going to happen there. Is it only in the bigger countries, the usual suspects, or how do people actually go about in Estonia and in Austria? I will explain in a minute why we featured those people who were actually introduced. First of all, I'll come back in a minute. I'll try to be brief. We talk about regulation. Now, there is one tool which I can highly recommend. It is called the 10-arrow principles. He did it about impact assessment. So much confusion. Some say impact analysis. Then you go into environment, social, economic, legal, what have you. But the key, what unites all of them, according to Arrow, is you have monetizable and non-monetizable impacts of any new regulation. And you have to take that into account, which brings us to the social dimension of AI. The social dimension, what do I mean by this? We have to make sure it is an ethical understanding. It is based on human rights, of course, in the wider sense, but it has to benefit society, and not only the companies which actually produce or provide us with and for AI tools. Now, any good government would want to find out if the AI trend continues at this lightning speed. How does it benefit our society, or does it? And who benefits? We will come back to that point. So if you really want to go into this, and we spoke about fake news, and I do a lot of media myself, so this is a copy out of a document from a ministry in Hungary. So we have the intellectual property rights, which are so important in a world of ChatGPT and AI. We spoke about it over lunch. I can now go, you can go. Just Google, if any one of you wants to have a little Google match here. If you come to regulatory impact analysis, you can find hundreds of pages, going back to Arrow and many others, and there is even a huge center called Regulatory Reform, doing exactly this, globally, for global governments. So there is an international dimension by definition. And you can read about it, you can put it into an article, it is in the general domain. I see it a little bit different. It is not necessarily in the AI general domain, so I'm mentioning the guys who actually wrote it. We are still humans, we have an intellectual copyright, and I don't want this to be taken away by any computer. So keep this in mind when you go into that topic, monetizable and non-monetizable, and the non-monetizable is the social dimension. Now, this is what I discreetly delete. Now, I'm not sure this is a small world, maybe one of my former students might be here, successful in life now. It's not about business administration 101, don't get me wrong. But you do an impact assessment. of a potential regulation regulating the use of AI in a given society. We haven't even decided whether we want it or not, but just assuming we do want it. You have your analysis. That's not enough. You have to find out, does it actually add value to a particular issue? Adding value is sometimes misunderstood. It is not only about a company making profit. Adding value, according to me, includes the quality of life for us individual citizens. So keep this in mind. And when you're still not done, you can come to the topic of a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this I want to use, I'm deleting the next slide, I'll just do it free talk. Now, if we go back to what we saw in the clip, now I'm asking you, did you really follow it? Of course I'm not. We saw a number of human beings using AI for a particular purpose. We saw the Technical University of Vienna, Austria's leading center for applied artificial intelligence. I only showed you my favorite robot, Mr. or Mrs. Yellow. They are pioneering AI in the health sector at the same time, which is a hot topic in Austria. Is it a strength to have a robot that can climb stairs? Well, we can argue about it. It depends what kind of task do you give this robot, because ultimately it is still you who is programming this robot. But it is very versatile. We saw it. It can do many tasks by its own. It's exactly like ChatGPT. The more you teach, the better it gets. Human-machine interaction. Maybe you find it fascinating, maybe threatening, maybe not. Opportunities, I think it depends on the development, but at least it is one idea, a positive idea. Then you saw, very briefly, a kind of medieval text. This is a center in Innsbruck, in Western Austria. They developed a tool via AI to decipher and to translate medieval texts into everyday German, English, any language you want. It is the first time that we can actually read, at the click of a button, a medieval text. Strength? Fascinating. It's about history. It's about learning. Opportunities endless. Any threat to anyone? I don't see any. And then you saw Mr. Çiftçi. He's an architect. He's Austro-Turk. That's the way he always wants to be introduced. He just designed a huge chunk of passive houses. Don't know if you're familiar with the terminology. Passive houses means energy-saving, sustainable houses. And he designed these via the help of A1, and most of the energy consumption is based on water usage, which then will be recycled, and so on and so forth. And he helped to design this in the sad time when we had this huge catastrophic earthquake, new houses being built according to the highest standards in the earthquake zone, very many of them passive houses, designed with the help of A1. I asked him specifically, are you not worried that your job is being taken away one day? He said, no, my business is booming. So he's actually hiring. Very interesting, I think. So this was, I'm wrapping it up. Artificial intelligence, according to me, can be very beneficial when we decide for what we use it. In order to find out about this, we must say, are there any strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or threats? Is any value added to society, to a government, a company, individuals? We must decide. And then do we need to regulate all of this, that it is really in the interest of a civil society? Then we come to the point of what do we regulate and how? And I think I stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we know that the regulations need to be looking at whether it's ethical. We also now need to realize very poignantly that it needs to benefit society. It needs to have a value added. Our final presenter is now going to look specifically, Mr. Zafer is going to look specifically at how can public institutions participate in shaping international AI guidelines.
Thank you, Professor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You are all welcome. First of all, I am very happy to be in here. Thank you so much, Directorate of Communications, for hosting us. And thank you all for coming here today. I am the last speaker, and I have 8 or 10 minutes left. There are one more panels after us. Today, I am going to talk about what is happening in Turkey and the world, and the role of public institutions in determining AI policies. MIT computer science expert Edward Fredkin said, there are 3 great events in history. 1, the formation of the universe. 2, the beginning of life. 3, emergence of AI. The famous scientist Stephen Hawking said, the rise of a powerful AI could be either the best or the worst thing that ever happened to humanity. AI will either be the greatest invention or the end of humanity. We don't know which it will be. In recent days, everyone talking about AI. I liken artificial intelligence to a Swiss Army knife. Both are versatile. Both solve problems. Both provide efficiency. Both carry risk. Both job lose. Both need work together. We all know the world is changing so rapidly. AI is transforming the world. So, are we ready for this transformation? I think we are not. But we must be ready before it is too late. Nowadays, it is hard to have a strong economy without AI. In Turkey, AI ecosystem is improving day by day. There are 208 universities and 104 technoparks. There are more than 10,000 startups. AI is on the agenda of our universities, technoparks, and startups. Turkey's high technology export reached $9.1 billion. There are important developments in the fields of AI in the world and Turkey. Ministries of AI were established in the United Arab Emirates and France. The AI office was established in the United Kingdom, coordinating public institutions. The first and only AI university in the world was opened in Abu Dhabi. Singapore offers free AI courses to employees over 40 years old. The European Parliament adopted the world's first AI constitutions. The Turkish Parliament AI Commission was established. The Security Council now includes AI in its decisions. The General Directorate of Technology Policies of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was established. The Ministry of Health established the Department of AI. A cybersecurity presidency will be established under the presidency as soon as possible. There are 27 million Generation Z in Turkey. This is more than the individual population of 143 countries. Young people in our country are very interested in AI. If we can turn this interest into knowledge, Turkey will have a very important position in AI. Turkey will achieve this. AI is indispensable for Turkey and all countries because we know that, firstly, AI is going to affect all sectors: economy, agriculture, media, foreign affairs, education, and communications. Secondly, AI will make 85 million people unemployed. However, AI will also create 97 million new jobs. Lastly, AI will create $16 trillion for the economy by 2030. To sum up, the driving force of the economic development will be AI. Public and international institutions play a crucial role in setting international AI policies using their regulatory authority, diplomatic influence, and technical expertise. So, what should be done? Firstly, United Nations, European Union, OECD, UNESCO, etc. International cooperation needs to be further increased because AI affects the whole world, not just a few countries. We need to work together on AI just as climate change. Secondly, development and implementation of policies. Just as there are policies for education, economy, energy, communication, and many other issues, policies should now be determined and consistently implemented for all issues. Thirdly, building a strong and inclusive legal framework, especially on ethics and privacy. For example, deepfake. Deepfake has become a big problem for the whole world. It can damage privacy. It can undermine reputation. It can manipulate the individual and society. It can create national and international crises. We must fight deepfake together. Fourthly, awareness of AI is a must. Public and international institutions should develop projects to further raise awarenesses. Lastly, training and human resources development. It is very important to update the education system. The basic principles and applications of AI should be taught in school and universities. To sum up, as humans must increase their capabilities. We must all explore AI together and prepare for the AI age. Because AI is not the future, AI is today. Thank you so much for listening.
Very good. Thank you all. We've answered some questions, but probably raised more questions than we answered here. And I'd like to close the session with some remarks about collaboration and regulation with AI, with a few remarks that were made about it by entrepreneurial co-founder of Microsoft, Bill Gates, in March of 2023. He said, any new technology that's as disruptive as AI is bound to make people uneasy. Nevertheless, the subject of AIs will dominate the public discussion for the foreseeable future. And as we do so, we need to try to balance the fears about the downsides of AI with its ability to improve people's lives. Second, we must acknowledge that market forces won't naturally produce AI products and services that help the poorest and the poorest of the poor. We need to ensure that AIs are used in ways that reduce these inequities. And finally, we should keep in mind that we're only at the beginning of what AI can accomplish. Let's do it together, and let's do it in ways that will help humankind and society. Thank you all.